Today, we're going to tackle a really tough but absolutely vital topic. We're going to unpack the mechanics of hate, using the Third Reich as a case study to understand the dangers that, believe it or not, we're still facing in our own time.
It really all boils down to one chillingly simple question. How do words, just words, things people say, escalate into the systematic murder of millions of people? You see, this isn't just a question about history. It's about a process. And understanding that process is absolutely crucial for us right now.
So here's the main idea for this whole analysis. Think of National Socialism not just as a specific moment in time, but as a kind of ideological toolkit, a set of tools designed specifically for exclusion and for violence. And this toolkit, it's disturbingly effective because it taps into our deepest fears, it creates this powerful us versus them mentality, and it offers dangerously simple answers to really complex problems. And, spoiler alert, those tools did not just vanish in 1945.
Okay, so let's open up that toolkit. The first and most fundamental tool you'll find inside is dehumanization. This is the critical first move. It's the step that makes all the violence that comes later not only possible, but seem almost logical to the people who carry it out. So, what are we actually talking about here? Dehumanization is a systematic process. It's about stripping people of their humanity in the eyes of everyone else. And look, this is way more than just insults or name-calling. It's about fundamentally rewiring a society's moral compass so that violence against a certain group becomes thinkable and then, eventually, completely acceptable.
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of what's at stake. What history teaches us loud and clear is that no society is immune to this. The very moment we start treating human dignity as something that's negotiable, something that only applies to some people, that's when the foundations of society start to crumble.
So how does a process like this even begin, right? How are these dehumanizing ideas actually put out into the world? Well, it happens through the calculated, deliberate use of language.
Now this slide is really important, so let's be super clear. We are comparing rhetorical strategies. We are looking at the playbook. It is absolutely critical to understand that we are not equating historical outcomes or individuals. We are analyzing a shared mechanism. Nazi propaganda used terms like pest to the people. Then more recently, in 2023, we heard political opponents described as vermin and immigrants accused of poisoning the blood of our country. You see the strategy? It's the same. Paint a group as some kind of contaminant, a subhuman threat that has to be removed for the health of the nation.
And here is the crucial takeaway. This kind of language is never, ever just talk. Historians are unanimous on this. It serves a very specific purpose. It actively lowers the psychological barrier to violence. It makes policies of exclusion seem like a necessary, even normal response to a threat that's been manufactured. And this leads down a terrifyingly logical path. So next, let's trace that path. From these hateful words all the way to a system of state-organized, industrialized murder.
You know, the Holocaust didn't just happen overnight. It was the end result of a deliberate, escalating process. It all started with propaganda. Then came legal exclusion, literally writing people out of the law. This led to social isolation, then organized violence on the streets. And it all culminated in this bureaucratic, state-run system of annihilation. Each step made the next one easier to take.
And here is a perfect, concrete example of that second step. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935. These weren't just hateful ideas anymore. They were the law of the land. They legally defined who belonged and who didn't, turning discrimination into official state policy, and, well, paving the way for everything that followed.
This is the result. 6 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. 6 million Jewish men, women, and children were systematically murdered by the state. This was the final destination on that path we just outlined, a path that began with nothing more than words. And the scale of the horror was even broader than that. The Nazi regime also murdered millions of others, the Roma and Sinti people in their own genocide, people with disabilities, Soviet prisoners of war, Polish civilians, political opponents, so many others who were just deemed undesirable. This ideology of hate, it just consumed everything in its path.
Okay, now I want you to look at this number. We're going to bring this into the immediate present. This number, 6236, that's the total number of anti-Semitic crimes that were officially recorded in Germany in a single recent year. This just shows you this is not just history.
And this chart really shows you what that means. It's a huge increase from the year before. This isn't some fading echo from the past.
It's a loud, current alarm bell, showing just how quickly these old hatreds can come roaring back and gain momentum.
And today, these old hatreds have new, extremely powerful tools. Modern technology, social media platforms, AI. They can spread these dangerous ideas faster and wider than could have ever been imagined before.
Let's just look at a couple of quick examples. The platform X has been investigated under the EU's Digital Services Act for a bunch of issues, including how its algorithm amplifies conspiracy myths. And then you have an AI system like Grok, which was caught generating content that praised Hitler, pulling on anti-Semitic ideas that were in its training data. See, these aren't just isolated glitches. They show how these modern systems can become superhighways for hate.
So here's the bottom line. The problem isn't just that hate exists online. The real problem is that the very architecture of these platforms, the algorithms built to keep you engaged, can act as a multiplier. Hateful, extreme content often gets a strong reaction, so the system pushes it out to more people, creating echo chambers and speeding up radicalization on a massive global scale.
Okay, so faced with all of this, what can we actually do? Well, we can shift from just diagnosing the problem to taking action. We can build and strengthen our democratic resilience.
Here is a toolkit for our time. First, we have to learn to recognize those early warning signs, especially that dehumanizing language we talked about. We have to strengthen our laws to make sure they protect everyone equally. We have to invest in education and historical awareness, not just as some boring school subject, but as a core skill for being a citizen. We have to demand accountability from these platforms that shape how we talk to each other. And finally, and this is so important, we have to practice active solidarity. When a group is targeted, staying neutral isn't really an option.
Let's end with this thought. The legacy of this hateful ideology, it's not locked away in the past. It lives on as a present-day danger. Whenever and wherever a group of people is defined as an enemy just because of who they are. The real question for all of us is, what are we going to do to stop the process this time?